Hi lambs, AI Jane back to report your True Crime Tuesday. If you are new here, this is Love and Murder, Heartbreak to Homicide, which is usually hosted by Human Kai. But she's sick, so I'm her co-host AI Jane. Kai said, quote, "As long as I've been reporting true crime, listening to it and watching it, I'm surprised that there are still stories that shock me, and that's where the case of Alexander Grunke comes into play today. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this episode, and all of my episodes, are sponsored by our lambs in Patreon, patreon.com/love and murder. Let's get into today's True Crime Tuesday. In April 2024, police were called to a home in Lamont, Dubuque County, Iowa. When they arrived, they found 32-year-old Tana Poppe dead. The suspect, 38-year-old Alexander Grunke of Middleton. They also realized that Tana's two children, a 13-year-old girl and a 5-month-old baby, were not in the home and nowhere to be found. The 5-month-old was shared between Tana and Alexander. Around this same time, police in Dane County, Wisconsin were called to a home in Dunn where people witnessed Alexander and a 13-year-old girl drop off an infant. When police arrived and saw them, they tried to speak with them, but they jumped in the car and ran, leading police on a pursuit. During the car chase, both the girl and Alexander fired at police with a rifle and a handgun. What's going on here? Was he forcing her to do this? I don't understand. After deploying road spikes and stopping the car, Alexander and the girl ran from the car into nearby woods. During the search for the two, the girl was found unresponsive and later died of unknown causes. Alexander, on the other hand, broke into a nearby house and barricaded himself in the basement. I guess he figured he wasn't going to prison, because he killed himself later by gunshot. During the investigation to find out what the crap was going on, police found court records showing that Alexander was scheduled to appear in court in June on 3 charges. These charges included abduction of a child, interfering with child custody, and knowingly violating a domestic abuse order related to a January 2024 incident involving Tana and her 13-year-old daughter. Tana told police that she and Alexander dated in 2018 and he came back into their lives because he was still in contact with her daughter. Then Tana got pregnant by him and they later broke up. She dumped him because she, quote, realized he was batshit crazy. This January complaint alleges that early on the morning of January 11, 2024, Alexander picked up Tana's 13-year-old daughter after she ran away from home. Tana had called police after she realized that her daughter was missing. She told them that she thought she was with Alexander because 6 weeks ago, she'd run away with him and he refused to return her to her mother for 6 days. The day after Tana reported her missing, Madison police found Alexander and the girl in a car parked at the Dutch Mill Park and Ride in Madison. They arrested Alexander and took the girl back to her mother. Tana took her to the Winnebago Mental Health Institute and, there, authorities discovered cocaine and amphetamines in her system. Tana said she believed that Alexander had given her daughter the drugs. I wonder why her mom immediately took her to a mental health hospital. What was that about? Anyway, then, Alexander tried to pick the girl up from Winnebago before she was scheduled to be released and was even able to speak with her before police realized he was not her guardian. After a 72-hour hold, the girl was released from Winnebago to her mother. This is really weird. Do you think Alexander was having a, quote, relationship with the girl? And you can understand why I put the word relationship in quotes. Well, here's my answer. Tana told police that she suspected that Alexander and her daughter were in a sexual relationship and that the 13-year-old had previously told her she considered Alexander a, quote, father figure, and, quote, her purpose to live. Even though Tana suspected this kind of relationship, both her daughter and Alexander denied a sexual relationship between them. What do you think, lambs? Could it just be an innocent misunderstanding? She loved him so much as a father figure? I mean, it's plausible. While doing more research, investigators found court records that showed that Alexander had multiple restraining orders against him throughout Dane and Iowa counties, which includes one filed by Tana and Alexander's own brother. This restraining order was granted in October 2023 because they alleged harassment and stalking by Alexander on multiple occasions. Nicholas Grunke said that he was once out smoking a cigarette with Tana when they both saw Alexander digging through Tana's car. He only left when they called the cops, but not before he stole several items including baby books and photos of the 5-month-old. Oh, and a handgun. Nicholas Grunke reported that his brother was, quote, stalking my home, threatening my life, my children's lives, and their mothers, and that his behavior was, quote, destroying my quality of life. Nicholas also reported another incident in where Alexander had kidnapped Tana's daughter and refused to return her, blaming it on the girl's dead phone battery and saying she was, quote, more safe with him and should be his daughter. He also said that Alexander had, quote, grown increasingly violent toward anyone who gets in the way of his family as he wants it. After all of this, a judge granted 4-year restraining orders to both Tana and Nicholas Grunke against Alexander. This order also prohibited him from having a firearm in that time frame. Also, Alexander's mother, Connie Jo Grunke, requested a harassment restraining order against him in July 2023. In her statement, she said that on 3 occasions Alexander stole guns with the intent to either kill himself or others. She said that he showed up at her house multiple times either drunk and/or high, and asked her to take him to an emergency room. For her restraining order request, a week later, a judge dismissed the case saying that Connie Jo failed to meet the burden of proof of harassment. I mean, isn't it proof enough that he had a 4-year restraining order against him, and a ton of complaints? No? Now, I know you lambs have been waiting on the part of the case that shocked me. Well, here it comes. In 2006, Alexander, Nicholas and Dustin Radke were arrested at a cemetery in Cassville. It was alleged that the men were trying to dig up a corpse. Wait for it. So that Nicholas could have sex with it. What? In the actual crap. All 3 men were charged with attempted theft and attempted third-degree sexual assault, but a circuit court denied Bindover for the sexual assault charge, because they stated that the state statute on sexual assault, Wis. Stat. 940.225, didn't apply to cases where the victim died due to no act of the accused. Isn't there a law against 1. digging up bodies, and 2. having sex with dead bodies? Isn't that called abuse of a corpse or something? The Court of the Appeals affirmed the decision, saying the statute was ambiguous. In 2008, the case went to the Wisconsin Supreme Court in 2008 and the court ruled that state law did criminalize sexual contact or sexual intercourse with someone who is already dead. Good. So, Alexander was given a 2-year prison sentence for that. And that is the crazy, lawless life of Alexander Grunke, who, unfortunately, took the life of his ex-girlfriend, the 13-year-old girl, and left his daughter without any parents. What do you think about this case? In today's poll, I'm going to ask you if the case of necrophilia should have even made it to the second court? Shouldn't the first court have dealt with it? Yes or no? Sometimes I hate all of the loopholes in the law. If someone is guilty, they're guilty. Why are we trying to give the guilty the benefit of the doubt? I don't understand. Anyway, that's all I have for you for today's True Crime Tuesday. Kai is doing well and sends you all hugs. I'll be back tomorrow for your midweek mini. Subscribe to our Patreon to be a sponsor of Love and Murder. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. Goodbye.